bounce, but I see where you're going with this.
Yep.
About as far as I can go without hitting the E38. It's very bent. The front end is bent like this and like this. And all the control arms are bent too, so all the wheels are going different directions. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Denver Beer and Oil. Today we're going to be doing some drift truck stuff. First thing on the, well, just tell you what we're going to do today. So as you guys probably know, Chris and I removed the transmission from the drift truck, E30 drift truck that is, to give to Rudnick. So today I'm going to be trying to get that thing not only running and driving but also skidding. So that means we need to completely disassemble at least 2 T56 transmissions, convert the C5Z06 trans that we bought into an F-body trans with a GTO main shaft and a F-body tail housing. So we'll get into that, but right now I'm going to show you guys how to weld a diff. I'm not going to do this like the strongest way possible. I'm not putting plates in it. So if you guys are putting anything with big power into a diff and you don't want it to break, I'll show you what to do. So come on in. So the idea behind this is you want to weld the spider gears, which are here and here, to the gears that essentially connect your axle flanges, which are right here and right here. So all I'm gonna do is basically just put a ton of weld in there, and then that way the wheels will have literally no choice but to spin at the same speed. And if the drift truck doesn't slide after doing that, then there's something majorly wrong. I mean, there's a lot of things majorly wrong with it, let's be honest, but at least it'll do what we want it to do, which is get sideways and make a lot of smoke. So that's the name of the game today. Hopefully we can get it all done. This may be a little bit more work than I'm able to achieve today, but we'll see. So let's get into it. I've already got the diff drained and cleaned. You want to get all the oil off of it. There's still oil on the ring gear here, but I don't much care about that. I'm not going to be welding the ring gear, just hopefully it doesn't catch on fire. So that's a thing. But I did clean all the spider gears and everything out, and the carrier with a bunch of brake clean. Make sure you give it a lot of time to vent if you use brake clean, because that stuff is flammable. This is kind of a junk diff. We really ought to be protecting anything that we don't want, you know, slag from the welding getting on, or whatever you call those little droplets.
I think it's slag.
I think it's slag.
Yeah.
We'll go with slag. So anything you don't want slag getting on, aka the pinion gear or the ring gear, you want to try to protect with tin foil or really anything. Just put something over it to cover it. But since I'm about 70% certain that I'm going to blow this diff up like really soon, I'm not going to take that action. So we're just going to weld the crap out of it and hope it slides. You know, if a couple little pieces of metal get in there, whatever, it's fine. So as long as the wheels are spinning at the same speed and making smoke for like a month, I'll give it a month. If it lasts a month, I'll be amazed. But that's the goal. So let's weld. Got the old MIG set up here. So you want to use pretty much as much voltage as you can possibly get out of your...
Turn that sucker up.
Oh yeah, just crank her up. So I've got it set all the way on voltage and about halfway on wire speed. So we want to get these suckers nice and hot to get some deep penetration. You'll notice it'll probably start to melt the spider gears. That's fine. Don't worry about it.
That's what you want.
Just send it, bro. All you got to do is make sure this sucker can't spin. As long as your pinion gear and your ring gear are safe, you're in business, dude. Oh, but here, one last thing before I do this. So if you guys are doing this at home and you want it to be stronger than what I'm doing, which I probably should do this, but I don't feel like cutting out plates, you want to get a piece of metal that fits right in here. So you can see where there's kind of like a square showing. You want to get a piece of metal to fill that, and then you want to box in all 4 sides. I'm not going to do that. And to be quite honest with you, I'm not super convinced that it makes it a whole hell of a lot stronger. So I'm just going to weld all 4 corners of these suckers and make sure that they're not going anywhere. It should be fine. So let's find out what happens. Start time.
It's basically porn.
So yeah, John from VI Engineered was here just a minute ago, and he welded this diff up for me. As you can see, dimes. I'm just kidding. John definitely did not do this. That was my butchery. But you know what the point is like they're not going to spin different directions, and that's all that matters. So it's forced to go in the same direction now. So we're going to have a slidey boy. Hopefully. Either that or it's going to be an explodey boy because metal's going to go everywhere. But either way, I don't really care. It'll be entertaining to watch for you guys. So we got the diff welded up. I mean, welded up. It's more like, you know, a blind man put a bunch of super glue in it. But regardless, it's welded up good enough for that piece of junk. So what we're going to do now is take this piece of deliciousness and convert it to a form where it will actually work for us in the drift truck. So, a few things that need to be done. If you guys have ever worked on anything with a GM V8 in it that's a 6-speed, you've probably seen this transmission or one very similar to it. This particular one is from a 2001 Corvette Z06. We got it used, obviously, but it's in pretty good shape. What we're gonna do is basically change this adapter plate, which is what GM calls it, but this is basically the part that when we change it is going to bolt to the bell housing. So we got to switch this out. The main shaft right here, this big boy, this quite unfortunately has to be changed out to a GTO T56 main shaft, which is super unfortunate because that means we have to not only split the entire case apart, but it also means we need to remove all the gears. Literally every part of this transmission has to come apart. So you guys are gonna learn right along with me because I'll be the first to admit I have no idea what I'm doing. So hopefully this goes well. But I've done some research and it seems straightforward enough. You know, it's just a bunch of stacked metal. So how hard can it really be, right? I guess we'll find out. Okay, so this is the reverse lockout solenoid. If you're familiar with the T56 from an F-body or a GTO or really anything else that uses T56, I think a Viper. There's some other stuff, but regardless, the lockout solenoid is actually over here, and there's a block off plate essentially that goes right here. So we're gonna be removing this, we're gonna be swapping out the main shaft, we're gonna be removing our shift selector rod. This entire tail section is gonna come off. We're gonna change the receptacle for the shifter. I forget exactly what the terminology that GM uses is, but I have, for all those who are interested, a list of part numbers of parts that you will need to do this, the prices, and their descriptions and diagrams and everything. So if anybody's interested in that, please mention in the comments and we can do a quick little how-to and, you know, what parts you need kind of thing. So the first thing we need to do is get this thing entirely apart, and then we can start splitting gears, and I'll show you all the differences and everything. But the biggest difference is the length of the main shaft right here. It's much longer on the C5 because it has to go into the differential. The diff bolts up here. It's a transaxle, obviously C5 Corvettes. So the whole diff bolts in right there, and that splines all the way in. We're going to be changing that out again to an F-body tail shaft with the shift linkage in it and everything. So as we go, I'll show you what I'm doing. And again, I apologize if I'm saying anything wrong because I'm learning right along with you guys. So hopefully you can learn from my mistakes and we'll go forward. So let's get started. You think, should we just send it? Give it a test?
See if it's drained.
See if it's got fluid in it. Oh God! Oh. Yep, it's got fluid. That, you know what? I can tell by the smell. That's not 99,000 miles. I got robbed.
Look at that color. It's caramel.
That's what you look for. It is not red. Okay, so we got the reverse lockout off, and this is one of the pieces that you need to change. When we change this shaft out, the shifter is going to be seated in here, and the reverse lockout needs to go on the side. As you can see on the Corvette one, it goes up to the top so that it can contact this when it's engaged, or not contact it when the reverse lockout is off. But that sits in there like that. So what you can do is you can actually grind that down and reuse it, or you can do what I'm going to do, which is remove this roll pin right here and swap it out for an F-body or a GTO one. Tail housing off, and then we'll flip it and pull the case off, and we'll have all of the gears just kind of stacked up, and we'll take a look. So much blood! This is the asbestos. That was what did it.
This is the asbestos?
Yeah, I don't know. Apparently asbestos makes you bleed a lot. Tail housing is removed. Next thing we're gonna do is remove this here snap ring so we can start taking gears off. At least I think. So this is my interpretation of what a futuristic city will look like. Just kidding. So while you guys were gone, I did some work. As you can see, main case, no longer on the transmission. So that's exciting. And also, shaft. Big one. This is what we have to change. So that sucks. So what I've done so far is remove first the shift fork. This is called the counter shaft, I believe. Also has a fork. This is a 5th and 6th gear. So the smaller the gear is, the higher it is, if that makes any sense. I think. I'm pretty sure. I've been looking at things. I don't know many things.
That totally makes sense because it's a higher ratio in the first gear, so therefore it'd be bigger, right?
Yeah, so I think this is first gear, this is reverse, and this is 5th or 6th. And maybe this is like 4th. I don't know.
This is new territory for us.
Yeah, I don't really know what I'm doing, so. Cross fingers! It looks fancy though.
It sure does.
And so far my YouTube certification is working.
Yeah.
So, Rudnick, we'll see if I'm any more successful at this than you are, but I fucking doubt it, man. So this gigantic galoof is the piece that I need to switch over. As you can see, I've got it all the way down to the front case, or whatever you want to call it. GM calls it an adapter plate, which is silly, but that's what they call it. So we're gonna use an F-body adapter plate. So that goes onto my bell housing. We're gonna use a GTO main shaft, an F-body shift fork, which is this guy right here. Or I'm sorry, not shift fork, but shift rod. So we're gonna use an F-body, one of those. I think we can still use the C5 shift forks and rod. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. This is a little scary since I've never done it before. So hopefully it works out, but it's a bit intimidating. Hopefully I'm a little bit more confident at the end of this video, but as of right now, this is pretty intimidating because this is a lot of money worth of parts to be ruining. There she is. Oh, this is heavy on my toe. I'm guessing it's supposed to go like that. And this sounds right. And there. Oh yeah, it's a beautiful transmission. And now I need to get this little rubber boy off. I think what needs to happen at this point, I think this is the GTO main shaft, and I think, in theory, all of this junk needs to be switched over to this. I mean, I guess maybe I could use this, but Mr. Chris Rudnick, from trying to slam his car in gear, did some little bendies over here, if you'll see that.
It's seen.
So I don't want to use these. I'm going to use the Z06 stuff. Getting these gears off of the main shaft is not going to be an easy feat. It requires a lot of pulling and bearing splitting and things of that nature. I have new bearings and seals for this, obviously. I'm trying to get a hold of Chris to find out, well, Chris Rudnick, sorry, we got to specify, I guess, since there's a Chris on our channel, but I texted him just to make sure that this is, in fact, the GTO main shaft. The part numbers on it aren't really referencing to anything, so I need to make sure. The measurements look the same. It looks like it's the right one, but I just want to double check that before I go swapping gears and synchros and all this stuff. I think the only bearing that I really need to replace is this little tapered roller bearing right here. This one is trash, obviously, doesn't even have the needle bearings on it. We're going to replace that bearing and swap all of the guts from the C5 transmission over to the GTO one, and then I think we can start putting things back together. We're not going to use this plate here. This is the C5 plate, and for those of you who don't know, I barely know, but I'll show you what I know. You can tell a C5 adapter plate by this little guy right here, and none of the other ones have it. They put these on the C5s because the linkage is so long. It's to improve shifter feel. So we're not going to use this. We're going to use the F-body one from the LT1 transmission that we had that Chris Rudnick also took apart. Verify this is the correct shaft, swap all the gears, and then we can put all this back together and get the drift truck going again. So I guess in conclusion, Chris, I hope that freaking transmission is working for you, man, because this is a pain in the ass. But that's okay, we'll get it done. Next video, we're going to complete all of this, or I'll just complete it. So I'll just put all this crap back together and we'll go drift it. We'll send it, dude. So as always, like, subscribe, comment, all of the above, follow us, you know, all the good stuff.